Hi, I'm Stan Templin, and I'm your student's science teacher. I just thought I'd like to introduce myself a little bit, um, allow you to see my face, put a name and face together, and just tell you a little bit about my background. I graduated high school in 1986 at Elko over in uh, Lebanon County. From there, I went to Georgia Tech, and I went to school to be a chemical engineer. I was a co-op student while attending Georgia Tech, and I realized very quickly that I didn't want to be a chemical engineer. Um, we would go out into the plant, collect our data, and sit in a cubicle all day long, and I just couldn't see myself doing that. So I decided to move back to Pennsylvania, and when I did, my dad said, "Well, that's your chance on my dime. It's now yours." And not knowing what to do or having any money to continue with school, I went to work in the private sector. And I worked for 3 years at a shoe company in Wilmersdorf, and had worked my way up into the management ranks, but it just was not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I decided to take an inventory of my life and everything that I've done in my life. And the only thing that I could think of that I really, really enjoyed was when I was a lifeguard and I taught swimming lessons. Now, you have to understand, I come from a family of teachers. Both my mother and my father were school teachers. And my father always told me, "Son, whatever you do, don't be a teacher." And I kiddingly say that's the only time as a teenager that I really ever listened to him and went to school to be an engineer. And I really probably shouldn't have listened to him that time and listened to him all the other times. But anyway, I decided to go back to school, and so I attended Kutztown University, and that is where I got my teaching certificate. And I was a year-long substitute after I graduated in 1996, and then worked at Solanco School District for a year. But then I couldn't find permanent employment. My wife and I were expecting our first child, and I needed a job. So I got a job at Mountjoy Wire Corporation, and I worked there for 6 years. And I really didn't enjoy it, but it paid the bills, and I was able to do what I, wanted to do, and that was fulfill the needs of my family. But it wasn't fulfilling my own needs. So my wife and I, after a lengthy discussion, decided that I should try to get back into teaching. And one thing led to another, and I ended up here at Cocalico, and I've been here for 17 years. And I absolutely love it. And I'm so grateful I get the opportunity to teach. It is a blessing, and I think that science is the best subject to teach because we have been given this world, the earth, and it is the best gift we could possibly get. And I think science is the best way to unwrap it and to learn and understand it. My wife and I, Kristen, have 3 wonderful children, Evan, Bryce, and Grace. Evan recently got married. Then our son Bryce has moved to Maryland, and our daughter Grace is finishing school in Florida. So we are empty nesters for the first time, and that has been a new experience as well. Well, anyway, that's a little bit of my backstory and who I am. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. You can contact me through Schoology, email, or call the school, leave a voicemail, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks again for stopping in and checking us out, and have a great night. We all know that we need to wear masks, and social distancing must be maintained at all times. I do allow for mask breaks every day, or at least we try to every day, by going outside, getting 6 feet apart, taking our masks off, and breathing in some fresh air. Here's what we're covering this semester: the metric system and measurement, which we've already done; scientific processes, and we've covered scientific method in different parts of a science experiment. We will looking more at lab reports, data analysis, graphing, and error analysis as we move on throughout the semester and work on labs. Then we did energy, potential versus kinetic, and the different types of energy. Well, we are finishing this up with by the end of today. Everything should have been finished for the energy unit. We will be starting on the atmosphere and climate next, looking at the composition of the atmosphere, how energy is moved throughout the atmosphere, look at the weather, and look at climate and climate change. Then we'll follow that with the ecosystems and looking at producers and consumers and how photosynthesis and cellular respiration are important to them, and then the role that they play in food chains and food webs and the energy pyramids. Then we'll take a look at all of Earth's cycles and how they affect the ecosystems as well. Then we'll move on to chemistry, where we will look at the classification of matter, the periodic table, elements and their symbols, how to read the table, and then how do ions form and naming of ionic compounds, also looking at isotopes and the differences between two isotopes, and then chemical reactions with the basic types of reactions and some chemical equations. From there, we move to space exploration, looking at modern astronomy, the solar system, stars, and how we have explored space, how we currently are exploring it, and what the future may hold. Grades. Assignments constitute 10% of the marking period grade. I do expect assignments done by the due date. However, I've been very lenient up to this point because of everybody learning this new hybrid schedule and making sure everything's getting done. Projects and labs are worth 15% of the marking period grade, and they are vital to the learning that goes on in science class. Quizzes will make up 25% of the grade. There are frequent quizzes that we do, and we do provide many opportunities for reviewing for the quizzes. Tests will make up 50% of the grade, and I do allow retests, but we must correct the first test and make sure everything is known before we move forward. And then the final exam is worth 20% of the overall grade. When we look at the overall grade, 40% of the overall grade is from the first marking period, 40% is from the second marking period, and 20% from the final exam. And then there is an example. So if you had an 82%, you would get 32.8 points. If you had an 84% in the second quarter, 33.6 points, and 83 on the final would get you 16.6. And if you add them all together, your final grade would turn out to be an 83%.